So after former President Obama claimed credit for our current economic boom yesterday, President Trump fired back, saying the boom is due to rolling back Obama's policies by cutting regulations and taxes. So who's right? Who cares? Think about it. The debate we're having isn't over how great things are. That ship has sailed. The media and the Dems see there's no more denying the success, so now it's about quibbling over credit. Fine, let the Dems have it. It won't win them election, but it might reduce their tears. Divorce rumors continue to escalate for the Obamas. Hopefully they can settle it like men.
For a decade, the image of Barack Obama was America's most sacred cultural artifact. It was more than a presidency. It was a feeling, a global phenomenon encapsulated in a single word: hope. His silhouette became an icon, his voice a soothing balm, and his legacy seemed so securely cemented in history that to question it was to commit a form of political heresy. He was the man who could do no wrong, shielded by a press that adored him and a public that craved a hero. But what if that entire gleaming legacy was built on a foundation of sand? And what if one man, a late-night contrarian armed with a smirk and a refusal to join the chorus, spent years gleefully kicking that sandcastle over, revealing the uncomfortable truths hidden beneath? Greg Gutfeld didn't just criticize Barack Obama, he systematically dismantled the myth, and the shocking details he exposed have only grown more potent with time.
Paul, is it helping the party to tell them to return to the rhetoric that helped them lose in 2024, like the dictator kind of stuff? It doesn't work on half the country. It's not going to get any better.
I don't think they have answers. And is it me? He's looking banged up.
Yeah, he's been having
it's the first time. It's something I've never seen with him. He looks scared.
Yeah.
Gutfeld's entire assault on the Obama narrative began with a simple but devastating premise. Barack Obama was protected by a political force field made of cool. He wasn't just a president, he was a celebrity. Gutfeld pointed out how Obama slow-jammed the news with Jimmy Fallon, hung out with George Clooney, and got the golden endorsement of Oprah. This wasn't just personality, it was a sophisticated political strategy. Gutfeld argued that Obama's charisma acted as a kind of anesthetic, numbing the public to the pain of his policies. He could deliver grim news about a floundering economy with the calm, detached air of a hip professor, and instead of panicking, the media would praise his intellectual poise. This cool factor was a weapon that made any criticism seem bitter, small, or even racially motivated, allowing a radical agenda to be sold as sensible moderation.
Asking you to believe, not in my ability to bring about change, but in yours. Yes, we can. Yes, we did. Yes, we can.
Oh, God. Well, it was a moving speech, and the audience response equally moving. So if the Obama presidency were a film, this speech would be the climax. All that's missing is the horse, the sunset, the rousing closing music as the title card reads "The End," perhaps in cursive.
Nowhere was this sleight of hand more apparent than the economy. Remember the promise of recovery summer? Gutfeld treated that phrase as Exhibit A in the case against Obama's PR-driven presidency. It was brilliant marketing for a product that never showed up. Obama promised shovel-ready jobs from a nearly $1 trillion stimulus package, but Gutfeld relentlessly pointed out that the shovels never hit the dirt. The recovery was the slowest and weakest in modern American history. While the media celebrated declining unemployment numbers, Gutfeld focused on the fine print. Millions had simply dropped out of the workforce entirely. He also hammered on the national debt, which nearly doubled on Obama's watch, exploding from $10 trillion to almost $20 trillion. He called it the ultimate bait and switch, a president who spoke of fiscal responsibility while bankrupting the nation's future.
With somebody that you don't like and you try to lose them at the party. That's what Obama has done to Joe. He's lost them at the party, and now he's moving on, and then he tweets, and then you find out that he's tweeting about something else while you're at the party. And it's just, I think it's kind of mean to Joe. The second thing is that it's part of that I told you mechanism that only happens when things are good. Because do you think Obama would take any responsibility if the good times were actually bad times?
But the economy was just the warm-up act for what Gutfeld considered the single most audacious lie of the Obama era, the Affordable Care Act. It was sold with a promise so clear, so absolute, it was designed to be unbreakable. If you like your healthcare plan, you can keep it. When millions of Americans began receiving cancellation letters, Gutfeld didn't just call it a misstatement. He branded it a deliberate, calculated deception to ram through a deeply flawed law. He mocked the disastrous rollout of the healthcare.gov website, a billion-dollar technical failure that perfectly symbolized the bureaucratic nightmare it was unleashing. But his real focus was on the broken promises to the middle class, the soaring premiums and sky-high deductibles that made healthcare anything but affordable for the very people it was supposed to help.
President Obama took another stand against evil yesterday, lashing out at ISIS, pernicious gang crime and human rights abuses in left-wing dictatorships like Venezuela and Cuba. I was kidding. He went after Fox News again.
I think the effort to suggest that the poor are sponges, leeches,
Then came the moment that, for Gutfeld, exposed the breathtaking hypocrisy of the global elite. In 2009, less than a year into his presidency, Barack Obama was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. He hadn't brokered any peace deals. He was given the award based on rhetoric and hope alone. Gutfeld was merciless. He juxtaposed the image of Obama graciously accepting the prize in Oslo with the cold, hard data of his expanding secret war. Under Obama, the drone program exploded. He launched 10 times more drone strikes than George W. Bush, perfecting the art of targeted killings with a sterile, clinical precision that sanitized the reality of remote warfare. Gutfeld savaged the anti-war left and the media for their deafening silence, exposing a double standard that was impossible to ignore. A Republican president at war is a monster, but a Democratic president at war is a thoughtful, reluctant warrior.
In an act of wonderfully skewed priorities, President Obama will appear in a reality TV show in which he gets survival tips from Bear Grylls in Alaska. Funny how far that is from the streets of Chicago, outposts in need of real survival training, much like the streets of Baltimore, Milwaukee, New York, New Orleans, where citizens are ventilated daily.
While the drones were flying overseas, a new and insidious form of surveillance was taking root at home. Obama had campaigned on creating the most transparent administration in history, a promise Gutfeld treated as the punchline to a very dark joke. When whistleblower Edward Snowden revealed the shocking scope of the NSA's domestic spying programs, collecting the phone records, emails, and internet data of millions of ordinary Americans, the lie was laid bare. Gutfeld argued this wasn't an unfortunate overreach. It was a feature of a government that believed it knew best. Worse, the Obama administration used the Espionage Act to target journalists and whistleblowers more than all previous administrations combined. The friendly, charismatic president was overseeing a surveillance state that would make Richard Nixon blush, proving that power, no matter how cool the person wielding it, is a dangerous thing.
Michelle Obama surprised fans on our new podcast by saying her pet peeve about her husband is that he's chronically late. For example, we're still waiting on him to admit he's from Kenya. And as for Barack's pet peeve about Michelle, he's mad that she keeps leaving the toilet seat up. When she cleans it. When she cleans it.
Beyond policy, Gutfeld argued Obama's most toxic and lasting legacy was cultural. He ran as a post-racial uniter who would heal the country's divisions, but Gutfeld saw the exact opposite happen. He argued that Obama was the true architect of the modern outrage machine. He pointed to instances like the Beer Summit, where Obama inserted the presidency into a local dispute between a professor and a police officer, fanning the flames of racial tension on a national stage. When Obama said, "If I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon," Gutfeld argued he was using the weight of his office to validate one side of a complex and divisive story before the facts were in. He mainstreamed the language of identity politics, expertly dividing Americans into competing tribes of victims and oppressors, creating the hypersensitive, perpetually offended landscape we live in today.
And maybe Obama had something to do with today's economy. I mean, without Obama, would we have Trump? Fact is, this debate says a lot about life today. The Trump economy is so great that Trump haters now want credit for it. Next thing you know, Obama will claim credit for putting kids in cages.
The media's favorite talking point throughout it all was that Obama presided over a scandal-free administration. Gutfeld treated this claim with utter contempt, calling it the media's most impressive magic trick. He would relentlessly tick off the list of scandals that were either ignored, downplayed, or blamed on low-level scapegoats. Operation Fast and Furious, which armed Mexican cartels and led to the death of Border Patrol agent Brian Terry. The IRS scandal, where official Lois Lerner took the fifth after her agency was caught systematically targeting conservative groups. And Benghazi, where an American ambassador and 3 other heroes lost their lives, only to have the administration falsely blame a YouTube video to protect the president's "war on terror is over" narrative weeks before an election. For Gutfeld, the real scandal was the media's willing complicity in the cover-ups.
5 more words.
Fact: Obama's now a Republican.
Everyone knows that getting rid of the deficit will require some tough decisions. And that includes cutting back on billions of dollars in programs that a lot of people care about. But what should be easy is getting rid of the pointless waste and stupid spending that doesn't benefit anybody.
Perhaps the most glaring example of this media hypocrisy exploded into view years later. The phrase "kids in cages" became the defining moral outrage against the Trump administration, a symbol of its supposed barbarism. But Gutfeld was among the first and loudest voices to point out the shocking, verifiable truth. The chain-link enclosures featured in the viral photos were built and used by the Obama administration back in 2014 to handle a surge of unaccompanied minors. The outrage was a complete fabrication, manufactured for political effect. The media had been silent when their preferred president was overseeing the policy, only to unleash a torrent of righteous fury when their villain was in charge. It was a stunning reversal that exposed the entire narrative as a cynical, politically motivated lie.
On Sunday, Val Jarrett went on CNN to defend her pal, President Obama. I wonder if the president prides himself on the fact that his administration hasn't had a scandal and that he hasn't done something to embarrass himself.
The president prides himself on the fact that his administration hasn't had a scandal and that he hasn't done anything to embarrass himself.
Now that's a low bar for achievement. He hasn't embarrassed himself. But it's true, no one on his staff was caught in bed with a giraffe yet. But to agree with Val, you got to ignore the IRS, the DOJ, Benghazi, Secret Service, Bo Bergdahl, and the secret server that led to the Orange Crush.
Then there was Obama's foreign policy, which Gutfeld branded a masterclass in weakness disguised as thoughtful diplomacy. He mocked the lead from behind doctrine, which in Libya resulted in the chaotic overthrow of a dictator and the creation of a failed state and a haven for terrorists. He pointed to Obama's red line in Syria, a bold declaration that became a global embarrassment when it was crossed with chemical weapons and met with total inaction. Most damningly, Gutfeld argued that Obama's premature withdrawal of troops from Iraq created a massive power vacuum, directly enabling the rise of the monstrous caliphate of ISIS. While Obama was praised for ending a war, Gutfeld saw him as setting the stage for a far more brutal and chaotic one.
Today we woke up to breaking news. Obama isn't woke at all.
This idea of purity and you're never compromised and you're always politically woke and all that stuff, you should get over that quickly. The world is messy. There are ambiguities. People who do really good stuff have flaws. Like if I tweet or hashtag about how you didn't do something right or used the wrong verb, or then I can sit back and feel pretty good about myself because, man, you see how woke I was?
Now, years after leaving office, the myth-making has entered a new phase, and Gutfeld's critique has only grown sharper. He relentlessly roasts the post-presidency Obama, the self-appointed prophet of social justice who lectures the world on climate change and inequality from one of his multi-million-dollar waterfront mansions. He points to the $65 million book deals and the $400 speeches to the same Wall Street banks he once condemned. He mocks the images of Obama partying with billionaires on yachts while warning the public about their carbon footprints. For Gutfeld, this is the final, undeniable proof of his entire argument. The man of the people has become the ultimate symbol of the detached, hypocritical elite, a retired king passing down judgment on the commoners he left far behind.
And now, technically, it's a scandal telling America you can keep your doctor, a callous deception that hurts millions. And it's a scandal of will to deny a toxic doctrine fomenting apocalyptic violence. And it's a scandal to ignore the modern Black Death, a plague currently crippling Chicago. Obama's tenure had more dirty linen than Charlie Sheen's hamper. But when your heart's in the right place, doing the wrong thing's always forgivable. And maybe scandal was just so common.
In the end, Greg Gutfeld's decade-long assault paints a devastating portrait of a presidency built not on substance, but on branding. He argues that Barack Obama was a political illusionist, a brilliant salesman who sold America a beautiful story of hope and change. But when you strip away the soaring rhetoric and the perfectly curated image, Gutfeld reveals a starkly different picture, a nation left with crushing debt, deeper and more bitter divisions, and an elite class more powerful and out of touch than ever before. The question that lingers is a haunting one. Was Greg Gutfeld just a cynical voice in the wilderness, or was he the one who dared to look past the marketing and tell the truth about a king who had no clothes?